wasn't all about me.
Hi guys, welcome to the show. And today we're actually going to be reviewing Creed 2. This is the 8th installment in the Rocky universe. And yeah, 8th. I couldn't believe it either.
Yeah, wow. This franchise would have made it this long. What was that? The title they had in one of the movies where it was like Rocky, like 15 or something.
Coming up, Pongo's review of Rocky 5,000. Pongo?
Yeah, there you go. It's like we're almost there. We're almost there.
Predicted.
So this is the 8th installment in the Rocky franchise, and to be honest with you, it lives up to it, in my opinion. But we're gonna get into that right now. We're actually gonna break this movie down in 5 different categories: the plot, the acting, the directing, the action sequences, and the characters. Now, this is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen this movie, please turn us off, go watch it, come back, and then listen to all the points that we're about to make.
All
So,
right.
Terrence, with that being said, give us the plot of Creed 2.
Okay, the plot of this movie is basically we continue where, you know, Adonis left off in the first movie, more or less, where like he's still trying to, you know, win a championship and try to live within his father's shoes. He starts off trying to, like I said, trying to earn that title, as well as going further in the movie, which they set up in the trailers, that he also has to deal with a looming challenger who is the son of the person who murdered his father. So that's basically the plot and setup of Creed 2. Overall, I liked it going into it. There's some things that I had with the plot that I didn't quite agree with in the ways that they went with it, but overall the plot and the way they set it up, I was fine with.
Okay, what did you not like about that?
Okay, the fact that it was Victor Creed, that he was
Victor Creed, huh?
I mean Victor Creed, Victor Drago, that it was Victor Drago that he was fighting. It was like they could have done more things. They could have made more of an effort to do something with Stuntman Wheeler, because there was already something set up with them in the first movie, as opposed to just throwing Drago in there, just like, oh, it's the son of the person who killed your dad. Who cares? He barely knew his dad.
Okay, well, why don't you chime in on this?
Okay, so
Do you agree with Tink?
yes, I agree wholeheartedly on the parts that he did not like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it started off is they skipped a whole bunch, and I think they really relied on the user, the viewer, to just buy into the fact that all of a sudden Creed, you know, Adonis Creed, out of nowhere became a great boxer with one fight.
He had 3 years. He had 6 fights.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was undefeated.
Well,
I'm just saying he was undefeated.
by the way, we're supposed to also believe that an Italian boxer was.
Okay, we'll get to that. but going back to what you were talking about. Okay, he had 6 fights in 3 years.
Yeah.
He was not undefeated because he lost to Pretty Ricky Conlon in part 1.
After that, he was undefeated.
After that, he was undefeated, but they were actually counting his underground record as part of his record now. So he was 23-1 at the time when he fights Wheeler, when he fights Stuntman Wheeler.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, in that regard, they're actually bringing you along in those 3 years.
I understand.
So.
I'm just saying that you asked my opinion.
Okay, no, keep going. Go ahead. So that's what you didn't like.
So no, also I didn't like the fact that it was also Victor Drago.
Drago, not Creed.
So I think
Victor Creed is Sabretooth, by the way.
They could have done something with Wheeler.
Victor Creed is Sabretooth. That's hilarious.
They could have done something with Wheeler, as you mentioned,
Or bring back Conlon. It's like, say he got out of jail in the 6 months.
Yeah. There was the other aspect I was thinking was that's a good one too. Is the fact that maybe if, you know, Ivan Drago, let's say he was harboring something, he built up a trainer. It just seemed too forced that it was going to be a son. It's like son versus son.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Okay, father's fought, now it's son versus son, and they were forcing us to buy into the plot that they could have just. For me, it just seemed like sloppy writing at that point. It's like, wow.
It wasn't Coogler. It wasn't Coogler. His producing aside, he didn't write the story.
Okay. This movie, from a plot standpoint, it was more of a Rocky movie than it was a Creed movie.
This was more of a Rocky movie.
when it came down to you know, certain aspects of the plot, the Victor Drago thing was a serious callback to Rocky 4, obviously. But in the manner of how or why Drago was actually using his son to kind of relive his glory days and redeem himself after all of the bad stuff that happened after Rocky 4, you know, that in itself as a subplot, I thought made it a hell of a lot deeper.
I think it did make it interesting in their dynamic, but also too kind of didn't make me. Okay, so normally in movies, in good movies, it's like, okay, you want to understand the villain and their motivations, but also too, you don't want to sit up there and say like, well, I don't know who to side for.
But he's not.
I want to still have a clear like, I need to side for you.
I disagree. I on one point, I do wish they would have built up his, you know, the villain on the plot, but if it comes to a point where you really buy into the villain, where you want to cheer for.
In a sense with that, but the way they did it, it was kind of like...
It wasn't like that in this film.
It was kind of like... It made you like... I felt bad for Victor Drago.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. It's like, you're being...
him to win.
You're being pushed into this. It was like, you're only...
Which is why I don't agree that he's a villain. And
Okay.
I don't see it that way as him as a villain. I see him as a tool for redemption on Drago's part. Drago, in my opinion, is still the villain in a lot of ways.
They didn't even do that too. They didn't even elaborate on that in the film either. In the plot, it really didn't. It's
basically it's like I'm trying to get my son a fight so that way he can get promoted because he's fighting these nobodies and you're the biggest name I can get and I can bait you into this fight.
You know what I felt about Victor and Ivan Drago in this film? What DC does to their villains.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It really didn't give you enough to. If you had never seen any film, which we had a large generation of viewers who've never seen the first ones because they were just too young, right? So this is the first one.
This film leaned heavy on you haven't seen Rocky IV.
Yeah.
So the plot really, in my opinion, they picked everything that they could from second, third, and fourth film of what the best aspects were in those films and put it in this film.
I do agree with you on that, especially the loss, the struggle after the loss, and then the redemption at the end. So that's similar to Rocky 3. The losing confidence and all that, that's more or less like Rocky 2. So, and then obviously the Drago tie-in is Rocky 4.
Rocky 3, losing confidence.
And then you throw in Heat when they're face to face. Your favorite movie.
Okay, so that wraps up plot.
Overall, you liked it more or less. Okay, and you did not. I did like the plot. I thought that the twist of not necessarily having the Dragos be evil and all ugly and all that.
I don't think that was their intention, though.
I think their intention not evil. I shouldn't say that, but more as far as they were not out for. They were more out for redemption. Than it was about money, than it was about anything like that. It was more about
bringing back the Drago name. Yeah. That's why the next sequel in this franchise will be called Drago.
So we will get to that. All right, the second category is acting. Now we've got some serious, we got some up and coming actors as far as coming back from Creed 1, who've established themselves as damn good actors on their own right. With Michael B. Jordan following Fruitville, following Creed, Black Panther.
His pedigree's already set. We know he's a good actor.
He's a damn good actor.
He's a solid actor.
Yeah, and then of course you get
good, but solid.
Of course you get he's got some work to do. I know that, but then you got Tessa Thompson also returning. She's done some pretty good things.
I think she's a standout.
Maybe, but hold on.
Will we call this an MCU movie? Because
I know. We'll get to that too. Ivan Drago does come back. Dolph Lundgren comes back to play him, and then I thought. You know what? I'll save that one. Sylvester Stallone does come back, reprise his role as Rocky, which that's like a freaking hand in glove. The role is just that's him basically.
And since for this franchise, they brought everybody back that we already knew were good actors. The only person, if we're talking about acting, would be Victor Drago. Because it just seemed like he was a physical presence and not an actor.
Yes. Florian Big Nasty. He's actually a real boxer.
Slash model, right?
I think so, yeah. But I thought for it being his first major movie, he did all right.
I mean, he only had like 5 words to say.
His lines were limited.
He had 5 words to say, sir.
But you had one job.
He didn't even get to say, I must break you. And it was like, that would have been great.
I will get back. Okay, fine, you're right. But I'll get back to a lot of stuff.
That would have been
what
awesome.
I wanted to say was.
If you could have said that somehow.
Okay, well, you said Tessa Thompson stood out to you.
Yes.
Why?
Just as a character,
they gave her more to do in this movie.
Her performance.
Her acting. They gave her way more to do in this movie.
This film, the first film, she was not a she was just.
She's kind of like a driving force for him, but not really her own person.
Yes,
this one is like
yeah.
And
this film,
being pregnant.
Yeah, this film it gave you a little bit more of a deeper insight, almost like with Adrian. Was
we got to see another version of Adrian, or to see what it was like to be Apollo's wife.
Apollo's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the fear of being beaten to death.
I think that's absolutely right. Okay. Who was the standout for you?
Well, I mean, I would agree with Tessa Thompson was real great. I would say that in Michael B. Jordan, in the first one, he was just kind of like bright-eyed, like, hey, I want to be a boxer and I need somebody to help me get there, and they won't help me the normal routes when my dad went, and I need somebody to help me. And I think they leaned more on Sylvester Stallone in the first film than they leaned on him in the second one. I think they made this was all Michael B. Jordan. This was definitely all. So I think he was my standout for this film. Even though he's an established actor, they gave him a starring role finally, and well, in the first one he had a starring role, but I think it was overshadowed by Stallone.
He was co-headlining. I think this film.
Yeah, this was him. This was definitely him. Like, he was overshadowed in the first one. This was all him.
And well, we're gonna get into characters, but from an acting standpoint, there are only subtle differences in who he was in Creed than where he is in this one. Because I think in this one, you know. If I read this somewhere where the first one he's learning to be a boxer, this one he's learning to be a man. Yeah. Where he's got, I mean, now he can't think about himself anymore. Now he's got a wife, he's got a child, so now it's different. So he's got a hell of a lot more to
his life changed so much in 6 months.
Exactly. So I gotta, you're right. He did. For me though, the standout, in all honesty, for me was Dolph Lundgren.
I knew you were gonna say that.
That was gonna be another person that I was waiting for the time to chime in on that one.
Dolph Lundgren, in all honesty, was what Sylvester Stallone was for the first one, where you really got to stretch out his acting chops there a little bit more, and did a little bit more with the Rocky character that he did in the first one.
If you go back and
this
look
one, I'm sorry, hold on. In this one, Drago shows a side to him that I have never seen ever, as far as his vulnerability, his final realization about what he's doing is hurting somebody he absolutely loves.
Towards the end it was like he really
and then the ending is just, I mean, man, it's teary-eyed. It really is.
It is. You saw it coming. You saw it coming.
I did not see that coming.
You did not see that coming?
I did not see.
Foreshadowing.
They foreshadowed the hell out of that.
I did not see the top. I was looking for knockouts. I was not expecting.
No, they foreshadowed the hell out of that.
But
how many times did they bring up throwing in the towel?
Yeah. All day.
Okay.
And then he looked over to the corner, looked at his son, he's gonna throw the towel in.
So, but Lundgren's performance in this, I mean, it's like complete. I mean, you see the pain that he had, that he's gone through ever since he lost to Rocky. The sit down with Stallone was like, man, it was so.
I appreciate it. That was one of my favorite scenes for him. It's like my life ended when I lost to you.
Yeah. So what I really loved about his performance, and what really stuck out, was you saw him in the first film. He was just a cog in the machine. That's all he knew. He was just a cog in the machine. And this is when the Cold War was, at its peak, right? And so we have the U.S. versus Russia, and so all we knew was this stoic Russian character who really didn't speak much, who still gave a great performance,
right?
In the first.
And something to be said about a physical presence.
And then, but this film, it gave us the broken man of what happened afterwards, and I think he did a great job. His acting portraying that. Especially the part where there's two main parts that stood out to me, I should say. The sit down, but before the sit down, when he's like, I don't see any pictures of me.
He was a great boxer. I mean, in all honesty, he was a great boxer.
Yeah, it was.
Well, not necessarily from.
I mean, looking at steroids.
But besides that, he lost.
Hold on.
And he was disgraced.
He lost one fight. He lost one fight.
But no, it was.
He never fought it.
Remember that was a great reminder for the audience, those that saw the first one, that Rocky did not like him because he killed his friend.
Yeah, no, they definitely remind you about that.
That was, and they remind.
I think we're really going down the road of characters at this point.
But in his acting, his performance when he said that, and he's just looking where he's just that for me was probably one of the most impactful moments at least for me, what he did in the film.
Okay.
And the other moment that stood out was when they're dining, and his mother came out, and his face just, you know.
He was like, I have to. He showed like what it's like to have to. The word was like, okay, I have to do this. These are the things that I have to do, whether I feel good about doing them or not. These are things that I have to do, and he portrayed that well. I'll definitely give you that.
Oscar nod
For Dolph Lundgren?
For Dolph Lundgren.
For supporting?
Yeah.
I don't think he had a big enough role. I don't think he had a big enough role.
It's too small a role.
It's too small a role.
Way too small. But what he did do was stand out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then maybe if Drago had come back and said, Adonis, you don't have the eye of the tiger, and in his Russian accent, said, I will teach you the eye of the tiger.
When he tells,
Maybe he had done that, I'd have been
Adonis, you're much smaller than your
father, because he is. It's like he was way smaller than Carl Weathers.
His son and they're the same. Everything.
Man.
Drago too.
Hey, you know what? Good to see Bridget Nielsen finally do something. You know, she didn't have much of a role there.
She was.
Cameo.
It was the same cameo, maybe a little bit more. I was about to say it was Pamela Anderson-esque from Baywatch.
Yeah. And also, hey, you know, it's good to see Wood Harris. You know, from strong side, left side.
Yeah.
It's good to see Julius there. So
the Brigitte Nielsen thing was just shocking to me. I really didn't think they were gonna bring her out, and I was like, oh crap, they brought her out.
In the manner of how they brought her out and who she became as a person, it sucks.
No, I
even
mean,
worse for Dolph Lundgren. So I thought, but overall, I thought the acting was great.
Okay, acting was great.
Acting was great. All right, next one is directing. Stephen Capel Jr. directed this.
He ain't no Ryan Coogler.
He is not Ryan Coogler, no. He's very close to Ryan Coogler, which is why he was selected for this.
Coogler-esque?
Coogler-esque.
Coogler-like.
Coogler-like. I like Coogler-like.
Coogler-like, yes. But I thought he still maintained the urban tone that the first Creed had, and really threw a lot of great nods in detail for the Rocky franchise in itself. In your opinion, I know it's a little bit too much at times, but overall, I thought that the continuity on everything, he didn't miss anything. I liked the pictures of Apollo and Rocky on the WC belt. I liked
because you know there was no other heavyweight champions.
I like they had Muhammad Ali on the other side. But I liked also that they had that he had the detail of bringing back Milo to play Rocky's son,
right?
Towards the end. So
that's such a sad moment at the thing, because all I can think about is Sylvester Stallone's real.
Yeah. But the overall the cinematography was great. The freaking music he selected was outstanding. I thought both the hip hop version and the classical, the scores that they were using. He put the tones right. The underwater shot of Jordan boxing, all of that. I thought he did a great job on it.
Okay, I will say
relied too much on nostalgia a little bit.
A little bit. I will say the things that I had problems with. Or the things I wish he had done, and this is where I think maybe Ryan Coogler would have been better. I felt like the first Creed was going more of an urban take on boxing, and I think that it would have been a little bit better to focus. So remember how I talk about how much I love Baby Driver, how the score drove a lot of the scenes in it, and I think that it was I felt like a lot of the things from his down periods to his training, it's like they just gave us more like an urban feel to it. I think that would have went better with this particular character as opposed to going more what they were doing in Rocky. The later Rockies were built on montages and songs, and it's like this one could have been built on without the montages, but more on like rap and hip hop and stuff I felt like it really could have went that way. Also, too, I think that. We got kind of basic kind of Godzilla-esque fights when we were doing with Victor Drago, and it was like, oh, I'm in the ring, papa, you're done, type deal. And I was like, in the first Creed, they gave us more. It was we got to see him fight 4 times before he fought Conlon.
Okay.
And in this one, we saw him do Wheeler, get beat down, and then his redemption fight. You know, it's like when he went to this, like, I was looking at myself with my watch. I was like, well, we know that he's gonna lose this fight, and then he's gonna get the rematch later. It's like there wasn't any build up to it. It was like I felt like if maybe they gave him another tune-up fight, and like maybe when he was doing his comeback, he fought some tomato can, and it was like this is like.
If I can chime in on that, and here's where I felt the directing really lacked. I think he did heavily relied on nostalgia.
Not heavily.
Yes.
There was some points where it was like, okay, this is Rocky.
But go on to your point. I think the reason you also felt that way, and this is one of the reasons that I also disliked it, was because in the training that was building up to the big match, what did he actually do and learn in training? And the reason I
in the first match, nothing.
But remember,
like there was this whole thing where he showed up at the gym and he was like, all right, we'll see if you're ready, and we saw no training. We saw no training.
So all you saw was him with the sledgehammer hitting the ground.
Oh, you're talking about like the second fight? Okay.
Oh, I got it. Hold on.
In the first fight, we saw no training.
No. But in the second one,
He wasn't focused. That's why.
he in the build-up for the big fight, you know, where he takes him out and he says, "This is where you come to be reborn," right? Where fighters come to be reborn. But the montage that they showed and the training, you never really had a body.
He didn't run through the snow.
No,
he didn't carry a log on his shoulders.
And here's why.
That's exactly what it was.
Hold on. But when we saw Rocky, Rocky 3, right, and he's training for Clubber Lang, and you see Rocky, and he's completely out of place, right? Right? It's like he's learning the eye of the tiger, right? Or what?
And they're beating on him. And they're beating on him.
You saw the training when Rocky goes in Rocky 4 when he goes to Russia, right? And he's going through all this training where it was really intense, right? And you see the struggle. You see him. In this film, it felt very rushed. It's like, hurry up, let's get. He's going to go to this pivotal point where...
Like, we don't want to spend too much time on a montage, but we're going to give you some sort of montage.
The most crucial part was where he fell down when he was running, and he learned to stand back up after he ran, right? When Balboa looks, get up.
You know, in that particular scene, I kept thinking, it was like, man, Victor had it harder because Drago. I mean, exactly. I even cat out, and he was like, well, I told you run, you run.
Yes.
he had it harder. It's like, I was afraid that he was gonna get beat down in the street.
And the whole game plan before was like, you got to learn to, you're not gonna stand there, blah blah blah. But they didn't train in any of that. It was just
okay. Hold on.
No buy-in.
All right. Now the training to the first fight, I completely agree with you. It was virtually non-existent, but at the same time they were training like it was a normal fight. Rocky specifically tells him that you have to change who you are to fight this man because he's different.
Yeah, after he saw him get his butt beat. He didn't say that before. After he saw it, it's like, you know what? After watching you get destroyed, you need to change who you are.
You wouldn't need Rocky to tell you that one.
Be somebody else than the guy who got his mopped in the floor.
So when he goes to the desert, you say that it was no training, but actually it was because he trained.
It was more like how to fight in close, how to be in a slug fight.
They didn't really elaborate on that.
No, he did.
It was. They kind of did with the tire. It was like, you need to learn how to fight. He said the fight's inside. You gotta learn to stay there. You gotta not be afraid, kid.
Okay, here's the deal.
In my horrible Sylvester Stallone accent.
That's the training. That wasn't the game plan. Go back and watch the game plan.
I thought the game plan was to stand in there and fight with him toe to toe, because he said you can't fight your style. You can't fight your style.
So going against those elements and him taking a beating, and that was the biggest thing.
Are we still on directing, by the way?
Yes, we are. Because this is directing.
This is how he directed. Okay.
This is how he directed.
At what point in the training did you when you watched it, were you like, wow, he really changed the way he is as a fighter?
That he stood in and took punches.
In the tire?
He learned how to slip, and he learned how to take a punch.
And how quick was that?
Like in a second, but this is a Rocky franchise. There was 3 clips where like he fell down or got out the tires. They kind of alluded to like
and then the fall.
But it really could have all been one day.
Exactly the same training that Victor Drago that they showed him go through. It was much more intense.
It really could have been one day.
You guys aren't looking at it from an element standpoint. The element was he was
not on his nuts.
He was in the desert, bro, and he was
you're right.
hammering a sledgehammer into a desert sand and ground. That's hard.
Yeah.
And then taking the punches, because that dude he sparred with was pretty damn big. and you know he took those punches, and that was what the whole thing was, is that he needed to be able to, his body.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. What I'm saying is the directing didn't elaborate.
Okay, so overall directing.
Well, I'm not done yet. Hold on.
Okay,
I want to go back to what you were talking about as far as the nostalgia and all that stuff, and the difference between him and Coogler. You said in part one, Rocky pretty much kind of overshadowed Michael B. Jordan or Creed, right? And this one, Stephen Capel's decision was not to do that.
Yeah, to put him forefront.
Because he put Creed in the front and center, and he put Michael B. Jordan in front and center, and he put Stallone as a complete.
Yeah.
I don't say afterthought, but you know
Stallone was truly Mickey in this fight.
Yes.
He was just a supporting character.
So I thought yes, more than he was in the first one. So that's why I thought his decision to do that. So he might have done more nostalgia than Coogler did, but Coogler gave more of Rocky, I thought, than Stephen Capel.
Okay, overall, like overall my thoughts, I think that he could have went more of a different direction. I'm not saying that what he did was bad. Is that I would have preferred if it went more of in a different direction. I guess we'll do in final thoughts some things that I wish that he had done, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. Yeah. So you like directing or not yet? Yes. Okay. Fine. All right. Action sequences.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. To a certain degree, there was not enough.
There wasn't enough, man.
There was not enough action. I thought that this movie was more character-driven than it was action. It was similar to Rocky 2 in a lot of ways because of the amount of action in it. But
because that was just based on one fight.
when it actually comes down to taking from Rocky 3, the two fights, the loss and then the redemption. I mean, those were good. The Wheeler fight was really good, and the Victor Drago fights were good.
Right.
There was just not enough.
Right.
You know, there could have been a hell of a lot more.
I could have saw, you know, montage his 6 fights before he got to Wheeler. Show me a complete Wheeler fight. Show me more Victor Drago fights that lasted more than 2 punches. And I know they were trying to make him build up as a scary guy like they did with Clubber Lang. When they did Clubber Lang's fights, his fights were like step man, boom, boom, boom. He was Tyson at that point. And they were trying to build Victor as the Russian Tyson at this point. But I would have liked to saw a little bit more. Give me one more fight. Like I said, one of his 6 before he got to Wheeler, then it would have made that I'm gonna win the championship.
But it would have turned into Rocky 3 because that's what happened in Rocky 3. They did the montage of
the best of this franchise.
The title defenses, it would have shown that. If I have any problems with that Wheeler fight, is that he just did not look excited. Do you realize what you just did? And even she tells him that.
That's exactly. And
that's why it deserved one more fight. Give me one more fight before Wheeler, and then it was like, hey, do you realize what you just did? You just became champion in these 2 fights. It was like, you know, I did, and it was like, and that would have gave me. So like, I just think that they at least needed one more fight, or give me more of Victor.
So when we saw Black Panther, right, and Michael B. Jordan, we know he can act and we know he can fight.
Right.
He can pull off action sequences. We also know Victor Drago is a boxer, professional boxer.
Hey.
Right, in real life. So I don't think they exploited the abilities of the actors in this case with the fighting.
No,
I think it could have been so much more.
They took real punches.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying what they gave us wasn't good. I'm just saying they didn't give us enough.
Enough of it. Okay, that's fair.
And that's what we feel about it. But as far as we got in the actual fights, I wanted to say, do you think the way the fights were directed in this one were better than what they gave us in Creed? I think that they had some spots where like some of the shots look really vicious, but I kind of like the way they set up the fights. And like when somebody got knocked down, you felt them fall to the ground. You absolutely felt them fall. The only part, and here's why I actually really felt it, is when Victor hit him in the ribs and broke his ribs. Every time he hit him, I felt that. That was the
one part where I felt, wow.
Yeah.
Like he really devastated him. The parts where,
everything else kind of reminded
down, it just didn't feel like, wow, that was the punch that really, when we saw the first one and they're, in the ring, I'll challenge anyone, right? And boom, 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 and he gets punched. You were like, wow, that he really got knocked out. In this film, I didn't feel like those mega punches were there. I'm not saying the fight sequence.
No, they weren't bad. It's just lacking. They were just lacking.
All right.
It's like when you go out on a nice dinner and she just
I expected kind of like
Sparks weren't all there.
like John Wick. John Wick's fight scenes were good in the first one, but when you got to John Wick 2, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I wanted to walk out like, oh my God, did you see the fight scenes in this one? And this one just kind of like, man, I wish there was the fight scenes that were in the first one. The director of that one was the director of these fight scenes.
Do you think that it was more because...
Or the choreographer of those fight scenes was the choreographer of this one?
Do you think that it was more because they wanted to kind of... get it out of the way so they can get to the character.
It might have been. Maybe they were trying to do more character development than fights, and they felt like that was just like, okay, it's kind of around boxing.
I agree 100% with both of y'all. To be honest with you, I think the sparring Wheeler fight in part 1 was better than the heavyweight fight.
Yes!
Right?
Yes!
Right?
So that's
Them fighting for the Mustang was better than them fighting for the belt.
Whoever directed the fights in the first one should have been brought back to choreograph the fights for this one, or whoever was I don't know if maybe it was Kugler who set up the shots to make it look so devastating, but like that person should have been brought back for this.
To your point, you know, they were actually throwing punches. The same thing that.
Hey, did they go in space?
The same thing that Balboa did, or that Sylvester Stallone did with
When he fought
Whatever. Yeah.
So the problem is
Mason, the Lion, Dixon.
Yeah, the problem is when you watch a real fight and they hit each other, it's not as exciting as watching a movie.
No, I mean it's more exciting in a movie unless somebody gets
but
flat out knocked out.
You know they're actually hitting each other.
Yeah.
But as I'm saying, for cinematography purposes, it's not as flashy.
Let's talk about Rocky 3. I mean, and we talked about it before about the camera angle.
The camera angle, they're punching
and they were punching each other.
You love that. I love that. I don't love that. I don't love that.
I loved it.
I don't love that.
The whole fight sequences in Rocky 3 were absolutely freaking amazing. And that one didn't have that many. Well, yeah, you're right. It had the montages. So I'll give you that in the beginning. But but either way, it could have used more. So
all right. So that was action.
That was action sequences. Characters. A lot of the characters do come back with some additions. Let's start with Adonis.
Adonis, I mean, I love his character. I love the fact that he had to deal with coming out of the shadow of his dad, dealing with the fear of being on top. You know, and it's like, hey, all the expectations of him, as well as,
taking the pressure.
Yeah, taking the pressure, being a father, worried about him ending up like his father. I think they did great with his particular character. If we're just talking about him right now, I was fine with it.
Adding the daughter that can't hear.
Yeah. That was, oh man, and I love that they went that route, because I thought they were going to cheese out and say like, oh, she passed the test, she can't hear, but they went to the fact that she was deaf. I love that they went that route.
Well, you kind of knew that was going to happen.
No, I thought they were going to cheese out and say like, oh, it turns out we did another test and she can't hear.
They kept on talking about that over and over. Right.
That's why I thought they were going to cheese out on it. I was like,
oh, come on.
They're going to say that. They're going to say that she can hear.
Now I know that she's not going to be able to hear because they kept on talking about it.
I thought they were going to go the other.
So my one issue and one scene. Really, that I did not like with Adonis was the fact that was when him and Balboa are talking outside his house, and he's like, "So you're not saying I'm dangerous?" That scene just felt a little too like you're the world champion. Are you? That
he felt really insecure. Yeah.
Are you that insecure? Because if you're that,
and this was with him dealing not about what it's like to be on top.
But as the character, he didn't show that insecurity anywhere else.
Getting there,
or implied that he was.
So it was one of those things where like, hey, we need to show the insecurity. So in this scene, you need to really like.
But we didn't see that anywhere else, right? And
well, I guess they did it when like he lost and he didn't want to go back in the gym.
Well, but that was after. You know what I mean? That was after he was broken. I'm saying before the fight. There was at no point in any of the film
that he was into. Yeah.
And any.
Maybe we had that extra. If we had that extra fight, maybe we could have saw that.
You know what I'm saying? Where at least the character had never once shown any insecurity,
right.
And that one scene felt a little forced, where it's like, okay, checkmark box, where this is why Balboa doesn't, and for me, that was the one thing. Had he not shown insecurity or said, or even skipped that line, it would have gone perfectly with his character.
Yeah.
But,
he was actually hiding or masking his insecurity with his arrogance, and that was.
But you never saw that in any of the previous film or in this film up until that scene. You never saw.
He always had a temper. He always had an attitude.
Yeah, but not insecurity.
But yeah, I understand. Okay,
next character.
So Bianca, she's she's a not hardcore, but she's a singer now, a little bit more well-established singer.
Like I said, they gave her more to do, and I like
got on the label.
Yeah, got on the label, dealing with being a mom, dealing with being, a boxer's wife, and it was like they gave her more to do, and I like what they did with her character. It was like it made me like, okay, I understand who she is as a person, and like I said, it gave shadows of Adrian, it gave shadows of Apollo's wife, and you got to really see what it was like to be a boxer's wife, because Adrian, for her sense, was outside of her crying and stuff all the time. And it's like, yeah.
You can't win.
It was like, she was just kind of whiny. At least this one, she understood what it was to be a boxer's wife. I have to be supportive, but I still have my reservations about if this is really good for us and you.
Her character was so great at portraying, and this is why I think she, as an actor, did an amazing job. Her character did such an amazing job as what it is to be supportive to your spouse.
Yeah.
And whatever, even though you may disagree.
Yeah.
And be concerned.
I still have to support you.
you know what? I'm going to be there no matter what. It wasn't. There was no ultimatum where he felt, and you know, as a character, as you know, as two of the three of us being married.
Thanks.
You want that support. You want that. You want your spouse's support, right? And anything we do. And I think that character, her character, was just amazing.
And then her also having to understand and deal with the fact that, you know, her condition is now hereditary and also her daughter, so she has to live with that too.
Yeah. Oh man.
You know, so that, I mean, that in itself, as far as character development, I thought Bianca's was great.
Yeah.
Okay. Rocky.
I love that they made him take a backseat. I love that they take a backseat.
But they were true to who he was, and so, I mean, like I said, hand in glove, Stallone was just perfection in that.
I don't even think you don't even know where Stallone starts in Rocky. You know.
I mean, basically, it kind of seems like they're the same person.
It's the same. I mean, it's just like you said, hand in glove. It's just who he is, and that's who we know him as.
Yeah. We talked about Dolph Lundgren already. We liked.
I think we kind of beat him to death.
But Ivan Drago as a character
needed more.
Needed more.
He got that one scene when he talked about like these people don't care about us. That was probably his best part of the movie, where he talked about like you're doing this for people who don't give less than this about us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's. I think we needed more because he did such a great job with what he was given.
Okay.
All right.
Overall, for characters, we love characters.
Overall, we love characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one question I did have. So, didn't Creed, didn't Apollo have other children?
Yes.
We're gonna get into that in a little bit.
That's always on my mind watching these. That's always on my mind watching these films.
Let's just go with it.
Because we're going.
Where are they?
He picks them up out of the juvie. He's like 12 years old. That means that those kids have to have been around the same age, which means that they...
No, they're older than him.
They're a little older.
Okay, they're a little older.
Because they were already like around like 5 to 10 at that point.
He died in Rocky IV. That took place...
They're saying that he knocked her up right before that fight.
No, I'm not talking about Adonis. I'm talking about his other kids.
I'm saying, I was like, so he, in Rocky IV is when he got that girl pregnant for Adonis. So Adonis is... he's much younger than them. He's got to be like So if he's
in his 30s.
Okay, so they got to be in their 40s. What, they don't show up for dinners with mom?
But what
it's like, hey, my other brother's there.
Or my brother's gonna defend.
Yeah, they don't show up for his fights.
The man who killed my father. I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
Well, they're in Russia.
No, but
but in the first fight,
you can't put. Yeah.
In the first fight,
he didn't fight no Drago.
No, I'm not even talking about the.
Oh, you're talking about the first fight. Okay. I got you.
But you know, he's gonna go avenge, or he's gonna all this stuff happen.
And your brothers and sisters don't want to come watch you fight.
Well, like you say, you don't know where they're at.
You killed my father.
Mom knows where they're at.
And that's one of the things, as far as from a continuity standpoint, that nobody touches on because they're so focused on.
Hey, are you an uncle?
But you know, you got these two that are older, but you know, let's just say 18 years. They were part of of his life. Yeah. Those two, the brother and the sister.
Maybe they don't want to see it anymore. Is that what you're trying to say? Maybe they just don't want to see that life anymore.
Possibly.
But still, that's your brother.
Or at least mention them.
Rocky and his son hadn't seen each other for 6 years.
Okay, or at least give me one line of dialogue. Hey, your brother and sister don't really. I know you guys don't have the best relationship because they're still not wanting to accept you, but by being not my son. It's a hard line to say, but at least it would cover the fact of why they don't talk.
If it would have been mentioned, if it
would have been mentioned, like, you gotta.
Hey, you gonna hang out with your brother?
So here's the thing: they actually knew who Balboa was. Yeah. Balboa knew who they were. Wouldn't they?
No, but he does acknowledge that. He does acknowledge that when they first meet. When he says I'm his son, and he tells him no, you're not, because he knows who the son is.
Yeah, but there was nothing else. What I'm saying is like, oh, this is my it was my uncle.
Are they Rocky 5 in this? Where they just gonna get rid of this? They got rid of Tommy Gunn. They're gonna get rid of Apollo's first children.
They never got rid of Tommy Gunn because he says I don't do that anymore.
So that was the reference to Tommy?
Yeah. In part 1, in Creed 1, he says that.
Okay, but at least he threw a line.
Okay. All right.
They ain't throwing a line for these kids.
Yeah. All right. Overall thoughts, Terrence.
As far as the movie?
Yes.
Okay, as far as the movie goes, I like it. Unfortunately, it is Rocky 2 to me. As far as, what's the better one? Rocky 1 versus Rocky 2. Rocky 1's always going to be the better film. What's the better Creed film? Creed is better than Creed 2, unfortunately. Not saying that it's a bad film, just Creed's better. I think that I set my expectations, I lowered my expectations, and I wasn't disappointed, but there's a few things that I thought that they could have hit. One thing that I thought that I didn't hit, that I didn't mention, is that, dude, when he said, when I get in the ring, I used to hear my father's voice, which he's never heard in real life. I used to hear my father's voice. Now I don't hear that anymore. When he started to fight back in that second fight, if they had done a voiceover of Carl Weathers, that would have been the greatest thing ever.
But he had been YouTubing his father.
I know.
Most of it.
But
so he's heard his father.
No, but he's never heard his father never spoke to him.
To him, no.
Yeah.
But he's heard his voice.
But he made that that statement.
I see your point.
Yeah, but like even if they had he heard his father that saying get up.
If the phrase would have been, I hear my father talking to me.
Yeah.
Is maybe what you're aiming at, but that's not what he said. He said, I hear my father's voice.
Why would he hear? Look, everybody in the world's heard your father's voice. Why all of a sudden
him? I mean, he was YouTubing when he.
But I'm just like, why is regular press conferences something that inspire him in the ring? Then the press conferences of Muhammad Ali would inspire you. Press conferences of Mike Tyson would inspire you. Why is it something from a guy that you don't know?
Because those aren't his father.
You don't know him. Wait. One more thing I had to say.
Okay.
One more thought that I had to say, and now I just forgot the whole thought that I had to say. Come back to me. We'll be back.
All right.
Final thoughts for me. Look, do I love this film? No. Do I think it was a good film? It was all right. It's not a bad film. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a big difference between saying this is a great film and this is a bad film. This is not a bad film.
No, not at all.
Film. Mm-hmm. What I would like to see is leave the nostalgia. Creed is going to have to establish its own legacy instead of heavily relying on the previous films.
But
the previous 6 films, to establish its own legacy.
Till we get to Drago. Till we get to the Drago series.
So that's my first thought on this franchise is it's gonna have to leave the nostalgia back. Okay, at some point in time, we're not going to have to rely on the other films or the viewers to know what happened in the previous 6 films and 7, but we'll exclude Creed 1 because that's what set it off. My second part the second issue, or what I would like to see in the future going forward, is evolve more the storyline. Don't repeat the same things that that we saw in the previous 6 films.
I mean, unfortunately, the first few Rocky films covered a lot of different things that they could cover. It was like,
that doesn't mean those are the only topics that could be covered. Where as a fighter,
I mean, they covered performance enhancement. They covered loss. They covered they covered they covered hey, I'm a retired fighter and looking for my greatness.
Oh, you know what? Racism. That something where
that's Creed 3.
That's what I'm saying. Like they could. There's more topics than just the previous ones that we saw.
Okay.
All right. My thoughts on the movie was it was a freaking great movie. I loved it.
Better than Creed 1. See, it's a good movie.
Very good. I loved Creed 1, but this one I thought when you're going and on to this journey with Rocky, with Adonis, from that standpoint, from a continuity standpoint, adding Milo at the end, showing Logan Balboa, the baby, the son at the end, the grandson. I mean, I just thought that from a continuity standpoint, as the journey from Rocky 1 to now, I loved it. I thought it was great. Could have been better, yes. More fights could have been a lot better. The less foreshadowing. Some of the some of the character moments, which there is a deleted scene where Rocky and Drago fight, and they decided to take it out.
I'm glad they took that out. I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
That would have upset me.
It was a smart
Unless it would have
move.
been a street fight.
It was a smart move. It was a smart move.
Get Tommy Gunn out here too.
He's dead. But it was a smart move because then that would have completely taken away from Adonis and made it about Rocky and Drago again. So it was smart for them not to do that. So I applaud Stephen Cable for that. But overall, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. Is it better than Creed 1? Unfortunately, no, it is not better than Creed 1, but it is still a freaking good film. Creed 3. Who or what?
The son of Clubber Lang.
No, you just said no about nostalgia, and you want to bring Clubber Lang. That actually has been thrown out there that the son of Clubber Lang.
Oh my God!
Oh no!
Right, that is a possibility. What I would
Bring back Mr. T. I would love that.
Robert, this is for you. What I'd like to see is actually have the brother, the half brother Creed, and make it Creed versus Creed, Creed 3.
But he's old.
I don't care.
He's gonna beat up some old guy. Dude, Stuntman Wheeler was a little bit older. He beat the crap out of him.
That'd be awesome though. Just some kind of.
Oh, I thought of the last thing I wanted to say.
What if there was another Creed?
Another one.
Apollo was very promiscuous.
Okay. Oh, there was two other things that I thought about. I forgot to mention. I'm thinking about my daughter because we talked about this on the ride home. One, I missed the fact that the press conferences building up the fight, we didn't get that, and I think that it would have been a great show of Michael B. Jordan selling a fight outside of the standoff that they had. That's the only thing we got to a press conference. And Carl Weathers made Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, all the damn press conferences. He was there. He made every one.
That's why
he was a showman. I would have loved to see Michael B. Jordan actually, or Donna's character, become a showman when he's trying to emulate his father, become a showman in that aspect. Second thing, the daughter, they picked the most randomest Greek name that they could think of for the daughter when Athena was right there. It was right that we had to Google, what is it, Amara? I had to Google that because I didn't know who that was. I was like, why didn't they do a Greek name? We looked it up. I said, oh, that is a Greek name. That's the most random one. You couldn't do Athena? A Greek goddess of wisdom? You couldn't do that? Come on, man.
You know what did throw me off? I for certain thought she was going to be named Adrian.
I thought so too.
Okay.
He didn't know Adrian though. He didn't know Adrian.
No, but
you had to do
for
Greek.
Rocky
But
because
he didn't know his father, but he hears his voice.
But he saw. He saw Rocky's face. He saw Rocky's face when he asked him about how he proposed to Adrian. He saw the impact of how the memory of Adrian felt. So, in honor of that, I thought that that's what the route that they were gonna go. You want to talk foreshadowing? I really thought that
Athena starts with an A. Is the most known Greek woman name.
When you have Apollo,
You have Adonis. It just would have gone
perfect with it. This movie. Like I said, was great. It follows the whole concept as far as the sins of the father. Both Adonis and Victor Drago are pretty much following that, and to a certain degree, so is Robert Balboa in Vancouver. So I guess in a lot of ways, that's pretty much the center about this whole thing. This movie grossed $55 million in a 5-day holiday week. So freaking great numbers on that. The more I see this, the more I was watching it and really paying attention to it. It really leads me to believe that the Rocky saga, the Rocky franchise, is really all about Apollo.
Really?
It is all. It's not Rocky at all.
Kind of the way the Matrix is really about Agent Smith and not really about Neo.
I think so. I think that this entire saga is completely about Apollo Creed. Rocky Balboa does
kind of
not.
like Harry Potter is about Lord Voldemort.
Rocky Balboa has no career. Unless Apollo Creed says, you know what?
I'll take it because he had no reason to take that fight.
Yeah, none. But I'll take Italian Stallion versus Apollo Creed. Sounds like a damn monster movie. So he's the one that did that. Got him his title back from Clubber Lang. Apollo did that. Got him to he wanted
Had Apollo not died,
he wanted to go out. He wanted to go out in the ring. In all honesty, because he felt that he had nothing more to give to the game of boxing. So he basically committed suicide. Is basically what he did. So that avenges him and Rocky in the next Rocky. Okay, Rocky 5 maybe does not have anything to do with Apollo, but his name
not at all.
but his name comes up a lot, and they even see the fight in the basement. 6, pretty much
No Apollo.
There's no Apollo, but there's pictures of him everywhere.
I mean, there's pictures of him always.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Because he's always lingering.
Right.
Creed, boom. You start a new franchise using what? Apollo.
Right.
So, Creed 2?
Yeah, they don't give him a voiceover.
Yeah. Creed 2, Creed 2, you get, Apollo again. So, because he's everywhere in that movie. So I really think that he is the center of the entire Rocky franchise.
I think what you're doing is what hardcore Star Wars fans say when they want to say the Force is. And it answers everything. It's because of the Force.
This is your Jar Jar thing here.
Do you agree with
Darth Jar Jar? Do I agree that this is Darth Jar Jar?
Yeah.
Darth, yeah. I mean, if you want to look at it in that sense, it's like, I would agree more along the lines that Apollo is more important to this franchise, but I don't think the franchise is based completely, because we got 2 movies where it didn't have anything to do with Apollo. But he is more important than Rocky is to this franchise.
Okay.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. To this franchise, yes.
Okay.
To the Rocky franchise,
Because Clubber Lang is never nobody. They don't mention Clubber Lang fight at all ever.
Well, there was 67. There's been 67 world champions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Heavyweight champions.
Hey, what do you, real quick question is, like, who do you think's a bigger threat? Victor Drago, Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago.
Bigger threat? Are we talking in the
ring?
prime?
In the ring. In their prime.
In their prime.
I mean, because obviously Ivan and Clubber are over. Ivan
is a big. He killed Apollo Creed.
I mean, what is this? Because he's got man's blood on his hands.
Yes.
Hey, Clubber was in jail, man. He's hardened criminal, man.
I think Apollo would rather be in jail than dead.
I think Ivan would be the more intimidating boxer.
Yeah. Okay.
Between the three.
Between the three, yeah.
Clubber Lang in his heyday versus Ivan Drago.
Oh man. Ivan Drago, but it goes to at least round 6 or 7.
Wow, you think he gets knocked out in 6 or 7?
This is
wow.
Yeah, but at the same time, Rocky was bulky. Mr. T was not, so it might even go as my round, third round.
My round.
All right. Last thing I want to end with to get your thoughts on this is you got the ending of finally having some vulnerability to the character of Drago, and we talked about that earlier. They're seen at the end training together, running together in the Ukraine, back in the Ukraine. With the character development that this has the possibility to develop even more, could you see the Dragos getting a spin-off series?
Unless it's going to run the same time frame?
Pretty much, but they're in Europe, where he boxes in Europe.
The belt, unfortunately, the belt wouldn't matter.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, do you see a spin-off this? Knowing the relationship that they have with
I see more of a
Nielsen's character and with each other.
I see more of a rematch than them spinning them off into its own thing.
Okay. All right.
I agree. Oh, that would be a great.
I see more of a rematch. It would be Rocky 2.
All right.
It would be Rocky 2. And Drago wins again.
You touched on it. The soundtrack, unbelievable.
I love the soundtrack.
Man, the soundtrack was
both
dope.
of them. There's two soundtracks, a hip hop version and then the
What is this, Blade 2?
The classical. It's you gotta check out that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below what you think about the movie. Did you like it? What was missing that you thought could have been better?
Who do you think would win between
Who do you think would win between Ivan Drago and Clubber Lang?
Clubber Lang. Clubber Lang. My money's on Clubber Lang.
Terrence, take us home.
I mean, where's there? There ain't no Russian heavyweights. The Klitschko's have been gone for a long time because they were Ukrainian. But we haven't done movie reviews in quite some time, guys. If you guys want to see us do more movie reviews, put it in the comments below so that way we can get back to doing it. We've been kind of like tossing it up in the air if this is something that we're going to continue to do. Depending on your reactions, will let us know if this is something that you guys really want. But also make sure you go to the channel and subscribe, as well as click the notification bell so that way you're aware of all the other things that we do and maybe hopefully more reviews.
All right. For Aspen, wherever the hell she's at, I'm Manny.
I'm Terrence.
I'm
How about we just start? No, let's just start over.
You wanna start completely
this
over?
is completely because now I got too many damn edits just to get the damn video started.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Shh. Don't play nothing. Don't do nothing. Just shh. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.